Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits into pins with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on all social media platforms. Let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism is good criticism. Let's get into it. Today, we got a special guest by the name of Johnny Vargas, aka Viva la Vargas, TikTok influencer, social media influencer. All hail Johnny V. Introduce yourself. Let them know where you're at, what you're doing, what you do, family, all that good gouge.
Yeah, so my name's Johnny Vargas. I'm 33 years young. I'll be 34 pretty soon here in a minute. I got four kids. Got four of them things. Currently stationed at Fort Cavazos, which is formerly known as Fort Hood, which mainly people would recognize it as Fort Hood. But here in Central Texas, so we're kind of just in the middle. I'm from Los Angeles, California. Probably never move back there. It's a little too expensive. But yeah, I'm just kind of living life. Been almost in the Army almost 12 years. So kind of we're getting there.
That's awesome. Hey, where have you been at the last couple years? Duty stations.
Yeah, so I started off in Fort Benning, Georgia, which is now called Fort Moore. I did that for 3 years, and then I went up to Alaska, Fort Wainwright, for about 3 years. I got super cold. The coldest it ever was when I was outside was negative 64 degrees.
Hell
So
yeah.
a little cold. But then after that, I went to Fort Kansas. Fort Riley, Kansas, for about 4 years, which was not my favorite, and now I'm here.
Look, let me tell you, Alaska. I've always wanted to go to Alaska.
Yeah, it's
Is it good or
beautiful.
bad or what? What's up?
Yeah, I would say it's gorgeous. I mean, it's cold, but it's a different type of community up there.
Hmm.
You really, first off, in the cold, you really figure out what your real self is, because you have to brave the cold, especially when you're training and shooting and moving and stuff like that. It's crazy, but yeah, it's beautiful. I'd go back tomorrow if I could.
Yeah, that's what's up, dude. Hey, I'm a little jealous. I want to go there. Always wanted to go there. Hopefully, I get to one time at least in this career. But we'll see what happens. Hey, man. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I like to have everybody from all backgrounds, right? Army, Navy, Air Force, even the Coast Guard, come on in and let us know how they're living. What Before we chop it up and start get into the meat and potatoes, let them know how Viva La Varga started.
So I started doing TikTok about a year ago, probably a little under a year ago, and it was mainly like corny, but feel good type of motivating content. I was like going over some of my favorite quotes and trying to just help people have better days, which I still try to do that when I can, but I was doing that and reaching really nobody, honestly, but I was still doing it just because I enjoyed doing it. And, the few people that did watch it really got something out of it. And then I did a couple of the cliche military skits, and it kind of just took off. Like, people started watching it, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess people want to see this. So I did more. And then I started networking with people, and then I built kind of like a content strategy. And then I started making it just more valuable, like working on lighting and writing content, and just trying to make it a whole experience and trying to build a brand rather than just get on the phone and just say whatever. I'm trying to build something that's going to last.
That's awesome, dude. Look, I don't know how your stuff got on my For You page or whatever it is that they call it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not really a social media. Don't quote me on anything. But when I seen you up there, I seen you with the what is that? The officer, weird face, Johnny this, Johnny that. Dude, I love those. Those
Mandatory
are
fun day.
yeah, those are
Yeah.
funny. You know,
Yeah.
the funny part is you make the officer look. Woo, woo.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It always puts a smile on my face, man. So you're doing. Look, if you can inspire and motivate one person, you have. I'm over here inspired and motivated for sure. But again, it's crazy to see that you know putting in a little bit of hard work is paying off. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It wasn't easy. I mean, just like anything else, if you dedicate time to something, it's going to develop. But then on top of that, if you dedicate the time and then try to perfect the craft of whatever it is you're doing, it's just going to grow even more. So you can expect some steady growth, just being consistent at anything. But then once you try to just be the best you can at what you're doing, it's just there's really no limit, honestly.
Yeah. All
You
hail
know,
Johnny V.
when I first started, I was reaching like my first couple videos were reaching like 100 people each. You know, each video, and now on a weekly basis across all the platforms, I'm reaching probably about 2 million people on all the platforms,
That's crazy. All
which I
hail
never
Johnny.
expected that.
Hell yeah. All hail Johnny V.
Nah, nah.
I'm in the presence of greatness. I'm in the presence of greatness. Um, well, let's get into it, man. I know I got you on for specific reasons, bro, but I want to chop it up too, get to know you a little bit.
Yeah,
Tell the listeners, family, kids, if you're able and you're willing.
yeah, of course, yeah. So I'm the oldest of three brothers. So I have a certain aspect of when it came to raising kids, and I had to be like the responsible one. So my kids get to suffer that that upbringing. But yeah, I got four kids right now. The oldest, he's just turned 10. I'm actually taking him on a trip. Me and my wife agreed that once all of our kids turn 10, that if the three boys, there's three boys and a girl, I get to take the three boys on a trip, like a man's trip,
Oh,
and then she's going to take my daughter on just some kind of trip when she's 10. But yeah, so we're going to go down to Austin tonight, and we're going to go to a concert, and we're going to just have a good time. But yeah, I got four kids. The oldest is 10, and then I got an almost 8-year-old boy, and then my daughter is going to be 4, and my other son's going to be 2.
that's crazy. Um, no, you're gonna hear a beeping
Yeah,
sound,
you're
but
good.
nice. You got four. I got four, but
Oh, cool.
it's I got a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 7-month-old.
Wow.
And I can't. Me and my wife been talking about having another one, so we'll see what God has planned, right?
That's
Well,
also in the talks for us too, is a fifth one, because my wife said, and I agree with her. We really can't really say, like, who are we to say that we're done?
right.
So
That's a good
we'll see
point.
what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm healthy, she's healthy. Oh boy, I guess
Yeah,
it'll probably happen.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. That's what's up, dude. I'm glad that you're having a family, a big family. I've always wanted a big family too, so it's just like might as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Yeah, who needs money, right? Just get it. Just waste it all on kids. No worries. Well, family. You talk about family. You've been in how long again?
Almost 12 years. In January, it'll be
12.
12 years.
So you're kind of already off that halfway point hump. Like, all right, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Kind of not so far, but it's there. I know what I'm going. I know what I'm reaching for. How has being a military member affected your? How long you been? Has your wife been with you the entire time?
Yeah, we got married right before I went to basic training, and we dated for a couple years before then. So we already had built a relationship, and then the army thing came up, and she was all for it. I mean, she was able to transition from civilian, girlfriend and civilian wife life to military wife, which that has different meanings for different people. But I mean, it's different because some wives, some spouses, because not everyone's a military wife. There's military husbands out there, but I know some spouses. It's a real hard transition, and you really have to be resilient and kind of know how to roll with the punches. So she's done a really good job of that.
Sweet. And how does that affect uh, you and your spouse and your family as a whole? You got operational tempo, right? You got mission requirements. Uh, it seems like right now you have a little more of a family time, which is great. Uh,
Yeah.
how does that play a role in what's in the dynamic of your family?
It kind of it was a challenge for a bit because whether it be a deployment or going to the field or going to a school for 30 days, 60 days, or whatever it was. Some people would say it gets easier to say goodbye, but I feel like it gets harder. The more years I go and seeing my kids grow and stuff like that. So it really kind of changed. It kind of made all of us appreciate each other a little more, because sometimes our time is limited. I'll have 2 months here, and then I'm TDY for a month, and then I come home, and then you go to the field, and then you come home, and then you go to Korea or something. But yeah, it really and I've seen it affect my kids more recently in a negative way, honestly, just because they're I could tell my kids are kind of done with saying goodbye to me and saying goodbye to their friends and moving and weird work schedules and at this point it's I'm trying to figure out what's best for my family rather than my career.
Ah, that's good, man. You definitely have a quite a ruck or bag to ruck with, right? So, um,
Yeah,
it is a dilemma, right? I've been in 14 years, a little bit longer than you,
yeah,
not too much, right? Maybe a duty station, but it doesn't get easier as they get older too. Because my daughter's the oldest as a teenager. You know, last duty station we moved from Hawaii to Washington, and it was rough. Like I got the 100-yard stare from my 16 year my well at the time was 12, 13, 14, whatever it was, and it was her life was done, right?
yeah.
It was no more like I'm gonna die once we leave this place of, and it was rough, right? And I gave her the opportunity, right? Because you know the detailer or the monitor or whatever it is that does your orders,
Mhm.
they said, hey, where do you want to go? And I let them pick. I said, where do you want to go? Where does it seem? Where does it seem? What seems good to you? And I let them pick, and now we're here because they picked it. Man, I
That's really
like it. It's
cool.
pretty, yeah, you know. So they got that part of Washington, right? And then she actually blossomed into a nice young lady, and she's getting good grades. High school's easy for her, and it just kind of worked out. So everything's planned out, divine order, steps ordered. It's great. So
Yeah.
I see where you're going, and it is a dilemma for sure. How do you take that dilemma and now still raise good children, still have a good relationship with your wife? How does that impact your relationship and your kids?
It's tough because, and I'm sure it's been the same at least for most of your duty stations with you. Is typically you don't have immediate family right there in your
Oh,
area. They're either several cities away or several states away or in a different country. I don't know if you've been stationed overseas, but um, it's really really tough. And I think one of the things. So I'm sure the Marine Corps has something similar, but the Army has a lot of kind of like pillars of health, and it's like physical health, your emotional health, but then there's also spiritual health as they push that, and that doesn't necessarily mean go to church, find a religion, find this and that, but just kind of figure out who you are and yourself. And I think for us, and I'm just speaking for us, like we have been fortunate enough to have some really really good churches wherever we were stationed at, and I think that really helped. At least for my wife, at the very least for her, just having some good sisters and trying to like a good support channel because we don't have our families around us.
and I agree, man. You know, I've been to Iwakuni and then obviously Hawaii overseas, right?
Right.
So we're never really close, but being really close creates a dynamic as well, right? I mean, you got to set some clear boundaries for your extended family now, right? Because at least in my opinion, mom, dad, brother, sister, they're extended family now. They're not my immediate family. My immediate family is my wife and kids that I've created, right? Or that I,
Yeah.
separated from my mom and dad and then did my own thing. That's my immediate family now. You got to have some clear boundaries. Um, are those boundaries set for you and your family out in your household with your extended family, both sides?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my wife and I both know, we make the decisions for our families, and we both have parents and some of our grandparents, and there's some people that used to have influence in our lives and used to make help us make decisions in our lives, but um, you're kind of as a military family, you're kind of on your own in a lot of different aspects. So, we try to, and I haven't really spoken to my, you know, more like not so close family to tell them like, hey, we're different now, or I'm struggling to find the words, but like they know, like for instance, when I come home now, is you come to me. I'm going to be in this city, like I'm going to be in we usually stay in Burbank when we go back to California, and we're like, hey, we're going to be in Burbank, and if you want to see us, come see us. If you don't, no hard feelings. We try not to cater to everyone because it just gets exhausting, and we barely have enough energy to kind of look after our own selves.
That's good, man. That's pretty smart. I actually never tried that. I always had to stay in one of the right in the middle. They all in the same city, so I guess it works out. But that's a good idea, man. You come to me, I'm not coming to you. There's not enough time in the day to please everybody. That's good. That's a clear
No.
boundary, man. That's awesome. Um, let's talk about your kids. You say they're done. They're kind of like you see that they're done. How does that affect the way you parent? How does that affect the way you have a relationship with them? Does it create some kind of division in between? I know it's friction, not division, but friction in between you and your kids. I know they're
I
not
just
they're
try to
not
help
old enough
them.
or mature enough yet, but maybe.
Yeah, at least for the older ones, I try to help them understand that, the military isn't forever, and this is just a season of their lives and our life as a family. But also, I don't really share this like on social media or anything like that, but I'm not. Well, I share this part. Like, I'm not doing 20 years. I can't. Um, one one of the reasons is physically. I'm having my second back surgery
Oh,
pretty soon. I've already had a bunch of discs just go out the window, and then I'm having two neck surgeries pretty soon too. Um, so I physically can't make it, but also emotionally, um, I can't bear to see my kids just sad, And it's not like they're moping and sad all day, but that's what kind of made me think of my exit strategy. So I think it's really important for everyone to have an exit strategy, even if you do 20 years. It's just important to figure out, okay, the military is gonna, the Marine Corps and the Army, they're not going to be forever. So what are you going to do after, and how do you sustain the same life or a better life for you and your family? So I kind of that hit me once, I started thinking about my physical health, like my back and my neck and other things. And then once my kids started just declining, like emotionally and kind of mental health wise, I was like, okay, well, if this isn't going to work out, then what do I need to do? So that's when I just started thinking of exit strategies, and I kind of preached to all my soldiers, like, look, you're 19, you're 20, you're 22, whatever. What are you gonna do after? Like, let's figure it out.
yeah. So I talk a lot of the guys that I have, and men and women that get come on. They talk about transition stuff, and a lot of them say you need to start transitioning when you know you're not staying in, right?
Yeah,
So their transition started when they PCS to the next duty station because they knew where they were going. They knew that that was their last one. They knew that that was it. And that was my EAS or my retirement date, whatever the case may be. And they said, I
yeah,
started transitioning there. Right. And not that I disregarded my job or my, who I am as a leader and as a person. And I'm doing that 100%. But I had to, they had to figure out how to meet in the middle in terms of transition and still provide as a service member in terms of your MOS and the billet that you hold. So
yeah,
that's good, man. You got to prepare to get out because you got to prepare yourself to transition right when you get there. And it sounds like you're already doing that. You're getting ready to get out. You knew that the Army wasn't a 20-year thing for you. Do you think that the physical aspect of what you're going through now kind of amplified that?
yeah. I think it really did. Second.
Do you no? Do you go ahead? Do you think your physical fitness and what you're dealing with now physically did that amplify your decision in terms of getting out?
Yeah, I think it did. There were things where I was like, it hurt to pick up my own kids, and my daughter would be like, "Daddy, can I, pick me up or whatever?" And there's sometimes where I physically couldn't just because of pain. I was like, I can't do this, especially one day I want to have grandkids down the road and be able to play with them and take them out and pick them up and just mess around with them. And I just kind of, that was definitely a big part of it, of like, emotionally is one thing. It's tough, it's stressful to be, especially a senior non-commissioned officer in both the Marine Corps and the Army. Like, it's a tough job, especially depending on your different MOSs and different positions. Um, but then just physically, it beat me up, and it was a huge deciding factor.
That's crazy, man. I hope everything works out for you. And it, I gotta ask. That affects some type mentality, right? That affects mentality. How have you what you're going through? How has that helped you in terms of resilience, bouncing back, moving forward, growth, the growth mindset, right? you got your fixed right now in terms of physicality. You can't do much, but has that hindered you, put you back a little bit, took a couple steps back, or are you still trying to move forward?
I think initially it did it took me back a little bit. And it really, it forced me to look at the big picture. And I just keep going back to like, look, no job is forever. You move on at some point. So my big picture is, even if I'm not making all the money in the world, as long as I have time with my family, and we're comfortable. I mean, that's all that matters to me now, is just enjoying my kids while they're kids. Because I think of myself, even when I was a young adult, I just, I moved on from my parents, and there were some years where it was tough, where they were always working or we were moving or something, and I just want to be able to dedicate a lot of time to each and every single one of my kids.
That's good, man. That's whoa, boy. You're talking to the soul now. You're not talking to like the outside forces. You're talking to the inside of my heart, in my mind. No, you're starting to preach to me, Johnny V. You're trying to preach to
Yeah.
me. Um, so it does set you back a little bit. And did that affect you when you went to work? Did that affect you when you went home? Were you distracted? Were you not focused?
Yeah, honestly, it made me almost like despise work and despise certain leaders that made me feel a certain way, or it just put like an ugly taste in my mouth for a little bit. And then I had to kind of rein myself back in, because I still led service members, I still led soldiers, so I had to be a leader to them, but at the same time, not let them know in my head I really hate this job, or I really hate this place, this duty station, or whatever it was that day. So it was definitely it was an exercise for sure, of figuring out how to navigate through that. And it like I said, it just made me hate work. And but I
That's
love the
wild.
people, and I think that's what helped me, is um I I'd laid down my life for all of those soldiers that I've had. And I think that was kind of a driving force of just to keep going forward.
That's good, man. You serve a higher purpose. It's just not even not just there at work or where you're at. It's just kind of in your heart. You got to figure out who is it that you are, and what kind of example you set, not only for yourself but the ones around you, and the ones that
Yeah.
you have an obligation to, such as your wife and such as your kids, right?
Yeah.
Definitely puts into perspective, either in a good way or a bad way, right? Because some people negatively, they take that and it's a burden to carry.
Yeah.
It's too much of a burden to carry. And some others, they like rucking with that baggage on. You know what I mean? That's who they are. That's what they do. That's how they work. That's how they function. And we got to just, as men, we got to figure out how to meet in the middle in terms
Mhm.
of work, family, kids, right? And the dynamic for service members is a little different than civilians, right? They'll never know, but it's okay. They're not supposed to, right? They're not supposed to know. They're not
Yeah.
in.
And I think like there's a psychologist and an author. His name is Dr. John Deloney, and he talks about choosing guilt over resentment, in relationships specifically. And if there's something that you really really dislike, let's just say about your spouse, you hate the way that she clicks her tongue whenever she's like talking or eating or whatever. um, if you don't say anything, you're just going to build a resentment. Or if you don't do anything about it, even if it's something small. And that's what I was doing with the army. I was building a resentment towards the military. And I finally, instead of resenting it, just building that resentment, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna, might feel guilty for, for leaving, or for wanting to leave, or for speaking to my own mind, but I'm not going to be resentful towards anybody anymore.
That's good, man. That's deep. Because you know how do you still be a good dude, right? A good dad, a good husband when you got all this stuff building up. I always tell my family and just around those around me, it's like a balloon. The more resentment, right? You're just kind of blowing the balloon up, and
Yep.
either you're gonna release some air because you're physically fit, you're doing that, you're doing all that good stuff, right? For you physically, maybe not so much, right? But what are you doing to
Yeah.
cope, or what is your decompress time for you, right, Johnny?
Hmm.
You got to really think. If you don't decompress, the balloon's going to build up, and it sounds like you were able to know for a little bit. How did you decompress when you can't physically not meet the standard, but you can't work out like you want to?
Yeah, I think probably social media was probably one of the other ways because I enjoy doing it. And it first, so before, I guess I would kind of back up. Before I did social media, I loved giving. I love doing like keynote speaker type of things for my soldiers. I would talk about. I was the MRT, the Master Resilience Trainer in my unit, and I would give like speeches to them. Like we would have a mandatory kind of resilience training like every couple weeks or once a month or whatever. And I really found enjoyment in teaching those classes, like how to build physical resilience, financial, spiritual, just like in a relationship and stuff like that. So I think that was one of the kind of avenues of kind of taking a breath and just really, because at that point also, I'm trying not to go off in a tangent, but like at that point, I understood that my role was to not just train men and women to be better soldiers, but to train men and women to be better men and women afterward. So that's just the role I took on.
That's crazy. If you can't be where you are physically, but mentally you were renewing your mind in terms of what your purpose was, right? And
Hmm.
it seems like you kind of aligned it back. Now you're back on the straight and narrow, right? Which is good for you. And I want to talk about family.
Yeah,
You know, well, how does it affect the military family? Is weird. It's a weird dynamic, right? You're away from home. You're not away from extended. You're away from extended family. I gotta ask. For me, at least me and my wife, we're not always on the same page, right?
hmm,
And then the military kind of came in, and it was like now we're not even on the same page because I'm not even home half the time. 3/4 of the time, I'm not even home. Just like you said, you're TDY, you're doing all these things, all these cool things that you signed up for, but they didn't,
yeah,
right? And so for me, they got put on the back burner. And now, 14 years later, I'm starting to figure out like what I missed. I'm starting to realize what I actually missed, and I can't get it back. And now that
yeah,
I'm interjecting myself, we're finally 14 years later, by the grace of God, getting on the same page.
yeah,
Uh, for you and your wife, how do you get on the same page in terms of military, husband, father, right? There's some miscommunication, right? There's obviously comms are not always on the same page,
yeah.
right? So you got to figure out how do we communicate so that the family is not affected. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, of course. I think it was tough in the beginning because it was a new life for both of us. Meaning like, I come home one day, I'd be like, "Hey, babe, I'm going to NTC, like near 29 Palms, for a month or whatever." And she's like, "Okay, when?" I'm like, next week or whatever." It's like you can't really prepare yourself for those like for those things. And then over the years, she definitely learned that if something is not in writing, it's probably not guaranteed. And even if it is in writing, there's going to be some way where it either fails or almost gets real close to failing. Um, so I think for her, I feel like she built, there was this expectation like, oh, this is the military, like they're going to take care of us, blah blah blah, this and that. But then slowly it was like, okay, expectations are now down here, and if they meet that expectation or go higher, then cool, like we're all good. So she takes everything with a grain of salt now, and we had to learn that. Because through a couple hard lessons, growing up in the military the last 12 years, but luckily, and then also the communication is key. It really is. It's what it comes down to. And if you're not a good communicator, just like I'm sure in the Marine Corps too, if you don't communicate well with your team, you're probably not gonna operate well. Whether you're clearing a building or trying to separate somebody from the Marine Corps or whatever it is, if there's no communication or a break in the communication, it affects the end result. So,
That's good.
um, I definitely needed. We all could be better communicators, but I think that's something that's definitely a key aspect.
That's good, man. Hey, you talk about soldiers, you talk about service members, right? Again, you know, the reason why we're on is because we want to talk about what our adversities are, and we want to share our coping mechanism, our decompress stuff, our things that we do that decompress that help us, maybe can help them. In terms of family dynamic and kids, share with the listeners what it is you're doing now compared to what it is that you were doing 10 years ago. Right? Is it different, or is it the same, or are you just better at something else? I know you
No, that's
talked
a
about communication, but besides the communication, right? You obviously can't communicate to a 2-year-old because they're not going to know. What are you
yeah,
doing as a man that is different now compared to 10 years ago?
that's a really good question. I think compared to 10 years ago, is trying to hang on to more of my like energy of worrying about something. Like if there's something that like 10 years ago, if there was something that happened, and even if I couldn't control it, I would worry so much about it. And I
Mm,
would complain, I would worry, I would try to change it or whatever. But now it's like if something comes down or some news comes down, I try not to expel so much effort and energy into worrying about it or trying to change it or trying to change the narrative, stuff like that. So I just kind of, I'm not like laying down and accepting whatever it is, but if it's something that I can't control, then why should I put so much of my time and energy into it, you know? So I
mm.
think that's one of my things now, is that I'm just growing to be like content with things. Like, hey, if this happens, so be it. You know, it's not like we've been through this before and X, Y, and Z happened, so like we're gonna be okay. So I think it's just being content with things.
That's good, man. So if you're listening now, whoever it is just kind of like you can't control what you can control, what you can control,
Mm,
right? And the only thing you control is yourself and those you're right, the ones that you're responsible for, like your wife. You can't control your wife, and that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying
yeah,
is, those are within your sphere of influence, right?
yeah,
Everybody outside of that is just there's just kind of bystanders, and if you're willing to inspire, motivate, and teach, then great. But if you're not, then you need to worry about what you need to worry about, because if you're not good at home, you're not good at where you're at, right?
that's
So
true. Yeah.
that's something to think about. And I know you talk about church, you talk about spirituality. How did that? Was it always this good, or did it take dips and dives, right? Because the military does take dips and dives at you, right? So how did that come about, if it didn't, and if it did, how did it get better?
You know, it is definitely like a roller coaster. There's different times of our lives where, we both grew up like in the church, and we got married in the church and stuff like that. And there were times where we were very connected with the church and the members and our buddies that we hung out with. And there's times where, we were kind of more to ourselves. So obviously, I feel like those times where we were more to ourselves or just less connected to somebody in our community, it was tougher. It was harder to deal with that stuff. But it really does help when you have somebody to talk to, and maybe somebody that has gone through certain things that you haven't been through or that you're going through now. And that's why like some of the things we've experienced like within our family, I feel like it sucked. It was really really hard stuff to go through, but now we're equipped to help somebody else go through that.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's actually a good gouge right there. And they talk about, I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want the kids to go through what I went through. Why not?
Yeah, I can see what people are saying, on that aspect, but also, if we don't allow them to go through certain things, it's they're going to output a product that might be subpar. That if, it's like I can't think of that analogy, but like if you don't try to toughen something, it's going to be brittle. It's going to break really easily. And not saying I want my kids to go through the hardest hardships you could think of, but I always tell my soldiers, I tell them like do hard stuff. If you if you go through your career or your life and nothing is ever hard for you, then you didn't challenge yourself enough. So be that person that's willing to fail, that person that just goes out there and is not afraid to hear no or just get shut down. But if you don't do hard stuff, then you're not going to know your limitations.
That's good, man. Johnny V, I know I appreciate your time. Your time is precious. I know you're going on vacation. Bring me back something French. I appreciate if you would. Um, and but to finish off on a high note, we got all this mental health, we got family, we got military. It's a lot going on, right? And if you had, if you got two more questions, time for two more questions. Um,
Yeah.
but if you had, this is the first one. If you had, one thing to say to all service members that are listening right now, give them one tool for the toolbox. What would it be?
If I had to say one thing is the things that you see behind me, that frame, and that frame, those are degrees. Those are college degrees. And they're free. They're 100% free. I didn't have to pay a single dollar for them, but I waited. I waited way too long to start. So I would say even if you don't do 10 years or 15 years, enlist in the military, get free college, get a couple degrees, and if you want to get out, then get out. But definitely don't waste your time trying to achieve these things when you're, a junior NCO or a more senior NCO, when you have less time because you're so busy at work that you got to cram a bunch of college. But just get educated because the military is not forever, and having some sort of education, if you didn't come in with one, is going to be beneficial in the real world.
Progress, if any, is good.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Education is important, and why not? It's free. Nobody else
Hmm.
gets free school, right?
Yeah.
While we're serving, there's some programs now, like McDonald's has some, Target has. I get it,
Yeah, it's true.
right?
Yeah.
But it's not like what it is for us. And lastly, lastly, I know you got Johnny Viva la Vargas, right? Um, what is it that we can see moving forward? I know you got some, yeah, it sounds like you're a comedian. I don't know. It sounds like you're headed to the comedian world, right? What can we see moving forward? How can they reach you? How do they reach you if they want to see more of you, talk to more of you, to get to know you more? How can they reach you? What can we see moving forward?
That's really funny because I'm actually doing a comedy show with Mandatory Fun Day on Saturday. Yeah.
Ah, nice.
But yeah, I think moving forward, like, the military is not forever. Like I said, I'm gonna be getting out, but I'm still gonna be doing content and stuff like that. So okay, say hi.
Hi,
Hi.
hi. You can be on all you want. That's fine.
All right, look,
She's a little
Daddy's gonna finish.
cutie.
Okay. Ow. Ow. All right. You can stay in here, but you gotta stay quiet, okay? Are you gonna stay quiet? All right. Yeah. So I am doing some comedy stuff, and it's I love telling jokes. I'm just a goofball. Like I it's really hard for me to be serious about things. And I tell people at work all the time, I'm like, look, the only thing I run around here is my mouth. All right, that's all I'm gonna run. But yeah, I'm trying to expand like some long form YouTube stuff. So it's all the same handle, Viva La Vargas. Yeah, yeah, don't touch that, okay? It's all the same handle, Viva La Vargas on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. So moving forward, I'm actually unofficially got a TV show with a couple creators through AFN. So that'll
Oh,
probably roll out later this year, but some stuff we're still kind of working out. But that's coming up, and probably moving to a new position soon within within this installation to just create content for the military.
wow. Hey, take me with you when you go to
Yeah,
the sky, homie.
yeah. I'll tell them
Oh, boy. Hey,
we need a devil dog.
yeah, there you go. I'm sure you got a lot of weight to pull and some weight to pull. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. I hope everything goes well. But I'll be praying for you to make sure that everything goes well for you and your family with your transition,
Thank you.
with these new moves, with your social media influencer content, whatever it is, content creator, excuse me. Um, Dude, that's awesome. I'm excited for you. And I got you in my electronic Rolodex. So if I ever need a tool from my toolbox, I'm just going to hit Johnny V up. That sounds like a gel, dog. Isn't it already a gel, Johnny V? Johnny Bravo. It's Johnny
No,
Bravo.
yeah, I think it's no, I have it. It's Johnny B or something like that.
Hey,
It's in my bathroom.
if you make a gel, I'm all for it, dog.
Yeah.
Johnny V Suave. Hey, I already
And
called it 10% off the bottom.
it's funny you said electronic Rolodex. The half of the people probably don't know what a Rolodex is.
That's true, man. Hey, if you ever need anything and I can help in any way possible with this that's within my means, let me know. Call me up. You got my phone number. I got yours. I'll do the same for you. Expect the same for me. But again, And then you said Viva La Vargas is all the way through?
Yeah, Viola Vargas, everywhere, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff.
That's good, man. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Pit Talk Pulling Pits and Pins with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on all social media platforms. Let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism is good criticism. Again, hey, Johnny V, thanks for being on. Go ahead and say bye-bye.
See you guys later.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we out. Bye. This is going to stop recording. I guess not cancel. Stop recording.